Hey, I got new glasses and like I really, really love them. It kind of sucks because my fiance, I don't think he likes them. Like I put on my new glasses and I was like, oh my God, what do you think? Aren't they awesome? And he was like, yeah, I mean, if you like them, that's what's important, right? What do you think? And I was like, I love them, but you obviously don't. He was like, no. I like him. It was obvious like he didn't like him, but I really like him. I kind of wanted something different. I just really love my new glasses, and I was like so sick of the old ones. And like if you actually have like a really strong prescription, like if you need glasses or contacts like every single day to function, like I do, um, like once you start like getting having glasses so long that like they're scratched all to hell and like they're just like falling off your face if you sneeze, and it's just like a big headache. And it's taken me like every bit of 4 years into my sobriety to now be at a place where I have like new glasses. I have contacts for the first time in several years, and I have now my old glasses, which are like my backup glasses, and that's kind of just like another like little marker of like, wow, things are actually like working out. And it's like that AA and NA saying, if you do the next right thing, the next right thing happens, which is so true. But you know what people like, I'm a huge like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad fan, and next week is the very last episode of Better Call Saul, and I'm kind of really sad about it. But people don't talk about, or I've never heard anybody talk about, kind of like a problem, like an unexpected or unforeseen like consequence that comes with being sober. And one of the things that I really had to like tackle in order to have and maintain sobriety was like the challenge of just kind of like day-to-day existence. And like on Better Call Saul, and even like the movie Office Space and Breaking Bad too, it's like there are lots of movies, comedies, dramas, alike, that kind of have almost like an anti-hero that goes against just like the status quo and goes against just like the monotony of life. And even like with Office Space, where it's a comedy, there were like the main character, it's like he just couldn't fucking stand working at this office, and just the thought of working at this office drove him insane. And he had coworkers who were like, oh, that's job security, or I hope I never get fired from this this hellhole, and it's like, and then there are people who just would rather like be dead than retire from an office, right? And that's kind of, I feel like, I don't know, maybe not a lot of addicts, but I have a hunch that it's not, that a lot of recovering addicts kind of are in a similar position, which is like just day to day, like the monotony of life. And that's a big thing like I had to overcome, was like after the initial like high of like sobriety, after the initial like excitement of, oh my God, I have a life and I can like afford, like I have $5 to spare. And when you're like in active addiction, you don't have like every single penny, at least for me, went towards like drugs or cigarettes, just having like a new shirt, or even the money for like a shirt or whatever, is like exciting. But that's why I didn't have glasses or contacts, because I didn't have the money for anything but drugs, and it was like never enough, right? But after, like I was saying in another video, like a year and a half into my sobriety, it was kind of starting to get like the excitement of having a normal life and a little bit of disposable income, and having like going to the movies once in a while. That kind of excitement of just like everyday life without drugs was kind of wearing off. And that is what I did not know was going to happen in the past. The one period of sobriety I had, and I was sober for like 4 years. I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree. Was like really, going someplace with and doing amazing things with my life. And when I first had that 4-year stretch of sobriety in the past, it was I had to do like this 14 months in prison, and then I went from prison. I was only paroled like on the condition that I find and like have a long-term drug rehab set up for me to go to and complete. And so I went from prison to this rehab for 4 months, and the people at the like rehab and halfway house helped me and a bunch of other women get jobs, and it was looking almost like a career, like as a CNA. And I actually found that to be like, it was hard, but it was like really rewarding work. And that's my parole officer took it upon himself actually to get me and this other woman that was in the program with me. He took it upon himself to get us fired from our jobs that like were completely on the up and up. Like everything they knew when they hired us, that we were in like this recovery rehab program, and the parole officer was just a real son of a bitch. He was a real dickhead. And so I'll tell you maybe that like full story another time. But the point is like after prison and rehab, when I had this 4-year period of sobriety, after a while, like a couple years into, kicking ass in life and doing all these amazing things, I started to feel just that restlessness again. And it's kind of like that Kim Wexler in The Present, if you're into Better Call Saul, like, or, Saul Goodman, aka Gene, like the Cinnabon manager at the Nebraska Mall. It's just like the monotony of life, the despair of just every day. And it's like, people are just like, oh, got a case of the Mondays. I mean, that's like, that pain is real, and some people can just deal with it. And some people can just find a job, or they just like get in a groove and they can live life. And some people can't, and it's not like better or worse one way or the other. I mean, if anything, and I know I'm kind of partial here, obviously, but if anything, I think it's kind of awesome if you can't work a 9 to 5, because I think that says something about your soul, that you have something different to offer that's going to be, I think maybe a little bit more creative, or just like a different perspective. I think it takes it kind of a different type of soul and a different perspective, just a different type of person, to not be able to just exist and not be able to say, hey, this is enough. I think that's awesome. But it was just like being aware that that's okay. That was what was the big thing for me. When I started to get like this restlessness in my soul a couple years into this like extended period of sobriety that I had, I didn't know what to do with it. And because I hadn't really addressed the root cause of my addiction, which was everything inside of me that felt just exceedingly difficult to live and function within life. And like I've said, that goes back to an inability to process pain, and that goes back to a perspective problem, and a lack of sense of self, and a low sense of self-esteem and low self-worth. I didn't address anything that led me to addiction. I addressed my addiction as it was handed to me, basically, like, from just like a drug perspective. Because whether you're looking at it from like a rehab as like a business, or of course, like criminal justice, it's like a criminal injustice, really criminal injustice. But anyway, I mean, the penal system is not about actually helping people. It's a business. It's about, like I said, it's, in my opinion, it's modern day slavery. I mean, you take people and you turn them into a fucking number for like cheap labor, and you capitalize off of like the pain of people that are mostly addicts. It's just like a really disgusting system, in my humble opinion. But the point is like, you know, from rehab or prison or, you know, whatever, it was just even like medicated assisted sobriety. It's kind of just like, can you, as an addict that is coming to them for their services, or you know, getting stuck like in the criminal justice system, it's like, can you pass a piss test? Can you, you know, pass a drug test? And it's like, it's just, addiction is looked at just like flushing the drugs out of your system basically for X amount of time. And that's not what recovery is about. And I did not know that, and nobody told me that, I guess. I mean, maybe it's just like me being cynical to say this, but if recovery and addiction was looked at from a compassion and a fact-based, science-based perspective, you know, it would probably actually work better, and there wouldn't be like repeat offenders, and the recidivism rate in prisons wouldn't be through the fucking roof, and addicts wouldn't relapse so much, and there wouldn't be so many overdose deaths, and just all these myriad social consequences of having a country full of addicts. You know, but maybe it's just like cynical of me to say, but you know, if an addict is actually recovers, you know, you don't have like a patient anymore, right? So I don't know. I don't know. Who knows? I just have like no, like less than zero faith in any of these institutions anymore for the most part. I just think they're all like fucking full of shit. But anyway, I didn't know to address like the root cause of my addiction, which was just like how I looked at myself, how I lived with myself, and how I processed or did not process pain, right? So when I got this restlessness in my soul and I was doing everything right, like 2.5 years into this, for the one extended period of sobriety that I had, when I got that restlessness, I just thought, oh shit, you know, I'm just going to push it down. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to keep doing the right thing. And then I started to think, well, I must be a fucking idiot. You know, it was just like that really negative self-talk, because once again, I mean, I didn't know what the problem was. Nobody was helping me figure out the problem. So I thought I was the problem. And, you know, and then ultimately, because I didn't address all of these, you know, issues that I was having with myself and with just being able to like exist and live life, I relapsed, and it was this fucking horrific relapse that led me to homelessness and sex work, and ultimately being almost killed by like this, you know, manic satanic lover of mine, which was like, you know, crazy in itself. And I met that person through you know, an abusive ex-relationship. It was just like everything in my life was honestly really destructive, and everything I thought I would, because that's how I viewed myself, and that's what I sought out, you know. Law of attraction's always working, whether you like label it as law of attraction or not. I mean, you're attracting what you think you deserve and what you know, work towards. Even if it's like a race to the bottom, you're still like racing to get there. So anyway, when I got sober this time, like I said, I knew I really had to. I just was lucky enough to be able to live through my last relapse, and I'm so much more fortunate and just flat out lucky than a lot of people are, you know. God, so many good people die like every single day without knowing that they're worthy of giving themselves like a shot at a life that's not filled with like escapism and like this, you know, pain of existence, and like just so much self-punishment. It's just like really sad that so many people die without giving themselves a shot, you know. So I'm really lucky that I lived through it. But when I started to really be aware that, okay, this is my last shot, I mean, I could, like, the writing on the wall was notarized. This was like my last shot at doing something with myself. And doing something with myself wasn't like just having like the 9 to 5. It was like having a life where I wanted to live, you know. So I started to think, man, it's going to have to like go deeper than just like not doing drugs. Um, Before, it's like I wanted to be sober and I wanted to want to be sober. And so I could, not do drugs for an extended period of time. But then I got to that point where I, was like wanting to get high and wanting to dabble and wanting, to just push it and just like, oh, I'll just do this, a couple times. And, that doesn't work. Like, the goal cannot be like, if you have to just like, just hang on, like, like bare knuckle it just to the next day, it's just like a failure waiting to happen. Like, I had to get to the point where I didn't want to escape, I didn't just want to not do drugs. I had to want to live life, to do something in place of drugs. And that's kind of what's not really talked about, is that, that present day living in Florida, Kim Wexler. I guess if you don't watch Better Call Saul, not that anybody's going to watch this anyway, but anyway, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But just, like some people, and I cannot just live, work at an office and just, I hate small talk. I've always been bad at small talk. I can't just have a job where it's like, oh, pays the bills. I mean, if I can't find a passion in life, and if I can't create a life that I am passionate about, why not get high? And that's like what is never really talked about, in my opinion, and from my experience, is you have to have a life, and your goal has to be like creating a life where you don't want to get high, because you don't want to escape, and you don't want to punish yourself, and you don't want to, escape the pain of life. That's why the way I handled COVID was such a huge, leap forward for me, because before I wouldn't know how to process pain. So I would just like, try to numb it or try to escape it, or just try to like punish myself for my ineptitude. That's how I viewed myself. But now it's like I look at, I'm trying to look at life as like, okay, there's really like, staying focused on my goals, keeping goals, getting goals, and staying focused on my goals and working towards those. And, if something shitty happens, or if a horrible thing happens, or if it's just a bad day, know that there is like growth to be had and wisdom to be, learned from that day. Because, sorry, I'm like hoarse or something. I just can't do like a nine to five, like I said, and a lot of people are like that, and if you'd rather, like, if you're just like living life to pay the bills, and you hate your job, and you hate small talk, and you hate your coworkers, and you're just like getting by, like, why not get high? That was always the big question. Like, if you can't carve out a little place in your life, or at least work towards carving out like a life that you're like excited to live, and you're like, wow, I'm actually like being part of, maybe a little bit of a contribution towards the good here, instead of just like, greasing the wheels of this fucking machine that hates us, that's where I'm at now. And I just wish like that was talked about more, because I think it would really help people if it was like, if addiction and recovery was approached from like, not just flushing drugs out of your system or passing like a urinalysis test, but actually like getting to a place where it's like, wow, like you fill your own soul up with life. And I guess that's good news for addicts, is like, I think with every addict, like the solution has to come from us and from our soul. And maybe I'm just cynical, but I think like a lot of recovery and like addiction, punishment, and like recovery, rehab type solutions, know that we are, in our perspective and how we like manage pain and our soul, like all the answers are within us, and we just have to find a way to believe in ourselves, love ourselves, keep a positive mindset, and keep working towards our goals, but if the fact that we are the answer and we are the solution, and our perspective and our outlook was the problem, that led us to using, and our perspective and our outlook is ultimately going to be the solution that leads to a recovery, that's like bad for our bottom line, so maybe that's just cynical of me, but that's kind of, I think, too big of a coincidence. But I just keep focusing on that. But I really, like, when I was watching Better Call Saul, I just wanted to share that because I really like related to Kim. I know what it's like to feel like, damn, I cannot live this fucking empty life. It's like when I go to Walmart, I just feel like a piece of my soul is like getting fucking sucked out of me every time I go in that store. But there's actually people that like Walmart and like working there, and that's just one example. But I mean, if you can't do that, if you can't live just like this mundane life or mediocre life, I mean, that's awesome. You probably have something like really creative to offer, or unique, something unique to offer, but you have to believe in yourself and give yourself that chance to be that positive contribution. So anyway, y'all have a good evening.